Well, on the desk with me is Liz Storer, co-host of The Late Debate. Good to see you, Liz.
Always.
And Justin Smith's gone walkabout on us, so we've got another Victorian stand-in now. Joining us from Melbourne is Carolee Katzenbarnis, commentator from Melbourne. Great to have you on the program for the first time, Carolee. Let's get your thoughts first up about John Howard weighing into the election campaign. We all know where his loyalties lie, but usually when he's got something to say, it carries a bit of weight in this country.
It sure does. Lovely to be with you, Chris, and also Liz and all the viewers. Look, I mean, you can't deny John Howard's got one of the most solid economic, credentialed partnership with Peter Costello. It was stable government for so many years. And I think that he is one of Australia's former leaders that when he speaks, everybody does indeed listen. And I think he made a really poignant point about Peter Dutton, that Peter Dutton has served for a long time, both in Parliament and both as a police officer. And he's actually offering a great alternative as a Prime Minister for this country, And he doesn't shy away from the tough issues that actually need to be addressed.
Yeah, I think Peter Dutton's life's experience is a real strength for him. I think John Howard also, I'm reminded of when he said of Julia Gillard when she was Prime Minister that she had no authority. His devastating critiques can actually hit home because they're usually pretty much spot on. And this is what he said about Anthony Albanese.
We have got a Prime Minister who's clearly out of his depth.
Do you reckon that's fair enough, that Anthony Albanese is out of his depth?
Well, it'd be hard to find proof of otherwise
Exactly.
after this term in government. He finally got the gong. He too has been a parliamentarian for as long as I can remember. And yet this was his chance. You finally got to sit in the hot seat. And what have you done with it these last few years? We've seen nothing but dismal failure after dismal failure. So that was a very short, sharp synopsis from Johnny Howard.
Yeah, indeed. I think it's just incredible to see Anthony Albanese just rejecting the opportunity to take responsibility for anything. Today it was the Greens and preferencing. Other times it's what's happening on our borders. He's always willing just to say, I don't know about that. That's not my job.
Oh, live and let live. That seems to be his attitude.
All right. Now, the other interesting thing I think that we're starting to see really come out in this campaign, Carolee, is the way that the Labor Party are tarnishing Peter Dutton with Donald Trump. Now, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, after he'd just been inaugurated and there was a lot of excitement around Donald Trump, that might have worked to Peter Dutton's favour. But at the moment, we know that polling says the swinging voters don't like Donald Trump. So it's definitely a tactic that is being aimed at Peter Dutton. In fact, let's just recap and show you what some voters, some people in Vox Pops today had to say about this.
I definitely like Albanese. There's no way I could go for Dutton because he's a Trump man.
Absolutely not. No way. Very similar to Donald Trump. Very dangerous, very authoritarian.
I just don't like Donald Trump. Peter Dutton, who's a very Donald Trump-esque person.
Well, Carolee, it's a small and unscientific sample, but it suggests that this is a problem for the coalition.
Well, look, it suggests there's a problem, but can I actually point out the obvious that, when Labor is using a very clever tactic, which is actually going to blow up in their face, in case people actually forget that, the one problem here is that we've got a Prime Minister in Anthony Albanese that has had one phone call with Donald Trump since he was elected back in November. People do forget, and we all have short memories, it's a 24/7 news cycle, that back during the Rudd-Gillard-Rudd years, Anthony Albanese was actually the deputy to Rudd. He actually ended up, he actually stubbed, Gillard in the back, backed Rudd. Now Rudd, as we know, who's the American ambassador. The problem that we've got is because they've got factional loyalty of more than 40 years, he's actually, putting all his faith in Kevin Rudd. Kevin Rudd has done nothing but slam, Donald Trump. And whether we like it or not, if you and I worked in a workplace where you know that somebody has said something dreadful about you, not on one occasion, but on many occasions, and suddenly you're given a promotion and you've got to deal with them and they do a 180, there's always going to be a tension as well. I really do think that Albanese has put his own personal loyalty to Kevin Rudd ahead of what should be done in Australia's national interest, you can imagine that if the boot was on the other foot, they'd be calling for, if it was a Liberal ambassador, to resign. And I really think it's disgraceful with what Kevin Rudd has done. He doesn't have a line into Donald Trump.
No, he
so
doesn't.
Of course we're going to be down the pecking order. No,
Sure.
and we are going to be down the pecking order. And, we can all have a giggle about it. But at the end of the day, we know that with Trump, he does have an ego, but he actually was elected on his mandate to put America first, to do what he believes is right for the American people. He won with an overwhelming majority. And Kevin Rudd still had stuff on his social media that wasn't scrubbed.
He
wasn't listening to it. Was, it's not good enough.
This is all going to come to the fore tomorrow when we get Liberation Day, Liz.
Oh, Liberation Day. What is it actually going to look like? We've been talking about it for a long time now. But this idea that most imports now coming into the US are going to be slapped with a 20% tariff. The White House has said, no, it's not a blanket 20% tariff on all goods coming from anywhere into the US. But this is going to shake up global markets like nothing else we've seen for a very long time.
Yeah, we will see. We'll be all over that tomorrow night. I want to get back to some nitty-gritty grassroots campaigning now. And Liz, tell me what you think about this poster that's popped up in Kooyong. It's a new poster for the Liberal candidate, Amelia Hamer. And alongside it, Monique, please do not take this side. It's a brilliant riff off what Monique Ryan's husband got up to earlier in the week.
And this is so effective because anyone who's not watching the news doesn't know that this is what she took down. But anyone who sees these signs goes, oh, is Monique a mean girl? Is that what's been happening? The fact that this Liberal candidate has gone to these extents just to save her core flutes. It's a very savvy campaign tactic.
Yeah, have a listen to what Peter Dutton's got to say about Monique Ryan.
Monique Ryan, I think, is a Green who's pretending to be a teal or a disaffected Liberal, and ultimately people who vote for Monique Ryan are voting for Anthony Albanese.
Yeah, look, it's so true. Is that cutting through in Melbourne where Monique Ryan and Zoe Daniel are trying to hang on to those key seats, Carolee?
Well, it's definitely a negative sentiment here towards them. I mean, there has been, reported stuff that Monique Ryan is instructing all her volunteers to call her Dr. Monique Ryan. Doctor. Very, very important to have the doctor title because she wants to say that she had a career, a very important one, before politics. We see the volunteers out at train stations. She's keeping, of course, a very low profile. I think those signages, I think, it's very responsible behaviour to counter some very irresponsible behaviour. But all jokes aside, we still don't know what has happened to the dozens of Amelia Hamer's core flutes which have been defaced. And there's also CCTV of other core flutes that were cut with box cutters. The police are still investigating, so we don't actually know who is responsible for it. But hopefully we'll see.
Doctor, give us the news. Speaking about time, we're nearly going to run out of time. Let's have a look at this. Let's check into the US. Have a look at this Democrat politician, this Democrat senator bagging Donald Trump. Have a look.
When is it going to be enough? My voice is inadequate. My efforts today are inadequate to stop what they're trying to do. But we, the people, are powerful. We are strong.
That's Senator Cory Booker. And the point here is he spoke for over 24 hours, more than 24 hours and 18 minutes to break the record for a speech in the US Congress. Here is the end.
I just want to tell you a question. Do you know you have just broken the record? Do you know how proud this caucus is of you? Do you know how proud America is of you?
My friend, Madam President, I yield the floor.
I don't know how they manage toilet breaks and the like, Liz, but if that's not Trump derangement syndrome, I don't know what is.
Where do they find these people? Anyone who was watching any of that 24-hour speech would have been like, mate, are you okay? Are these the mentally sound kind of people we want representing us?
We got to wrangle one day. We got to do a 24-hour wrangle. I reckon we'd give it a good shake. Yeah.
It'd be far more interesting than that monologue.
Sure would.
My
Thanks
goodness.
for joining us, Liz. Thanks for your first time on the show, Carolee.